Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air. Monday.
We tried something at home yesterday. Get your mind out of the gutter. We tried the just spend time in the space trick. I mean, like a space you want to get something done in. Maybe you want to organize it, but it's been maybe back of the mind. You've been shuffling it off of the to-do list here and there. Well, we tried the just spend time in it trick, and it worked. So we've got a storage room, and it become, shall we say, a complete freaking mess, especially after the holidays. And, we've just been trying to dig out some travel stuff for the new year, and some of it far in the corner of the closet. You got to pull stuff out to get to it, and then things aren't going back quite as organized. So we just walked in there, and we forced ourselves to stay for just 10 minutes. Literally, like, what do you want to do? You know what? Let's just go in there to take it all in, a reminder to be able to, at the very least, walk away and begin to ruminate on what needs to be done. We got refreshed, but instead, just as we'd hoped, the trick paid off. We just started to fix the little things, like organize the totes and the lids together, start a donate pile, start a garbage bag, and then within about an hour, a third of the room was just cleaned up, bigger donate pile, a full garbage bag of useless crap. And when I tell you, I basically got a runner's high out of the deal. I'm not even kidding, all right? I don't care how mundane it sounds. It was exhilarating.
It's time for Cruz Music News with Steve Reeve.
An absolute giant of music has got some criticism for the Golden Globes Awards. The ceremony was held last night and was televised, though not everything was. Hans Zimmer, a legend in the musical score world, has some choice words saying, don't ignore the original score category. You don't have a movie without the people who make that music. He says it's a shame not to honor those people, my friends, who work so hard to become a voice. I have to completely agree. Music is such a huge component of movies and television, to the point where if anything is going to get this guy to start welling up over TV movie, the music will have something to do with it. 1000% every single time. But I digress. Speaking of music and TV shows, a Fallout-inspired playlist has been released from Ella Purnell herself, who is one of the stars of the hit TV show on Amazon Prime Video. She plays Lucy McLean and has now put out a Fallout-inspired playlist featuring a ton of tracks, some classics, some a little bit newer, like music from No Doubt, Billy Joel, Elton John in there. Not that they're putting out the newest stuff, but you get my point. Nothing that's so ancient that it's on the actual soundtrack of the show, featuring pretty much exclusively music from the 50s. 25 tracks available on a playlist that is compatible with a few different streaming services. So find that on our social media. As well, the Foo Fighters did play their first show of 2026. However, without a key member, Pat Smear wasn't able to join. Jason Faulkner stood in for him for a show in Mexico. Pat Smear was absent because of breaking his foot last week. And as we reported on the news, he got a classic photo of himself on the gurney, flipping the bird at the camera, and an iconic image that they turned into like a tabloid photo for their social media. Absolutely check it out. Of course, we wish him a nice recovery. That's it for your music news this morning. I have a friend who's got a January birthday, and of course, it's real close to Christmas. So you want to make sure that you don't completely just lump it all in together. It's got to be its own celebration. But unfortunately, he was sick. We were supposed to get together over the weekend, just couldn't happen. But he ended up dropping off some cake because there was a cake that was just too lofty to be eaten at home. It got to be shared. But they wanted it to be a little bit of a goth cake. I've never seen a cake with such pitch black icing before, and I had forgotten that I had gotten into it when I woke up this morning. And even after having brushed my teeth last night, I opened my mouth and I was like, what is am I dying? My tongue is green and blue and different colors in different places. It's totally bizarre. And then I went, hey, ding, 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 ding. Yeah, that icing, definitely doing a number. But it was delicious. I'm so thankful to have shared a little bit of the birthday experience, despite some sickness going around everywhere you look. Happy birthday. Well, happy belated anyway, Ryan. Thank you so much for the drop-off. And for the scare this morning. I am not dying, at least not that I'm aware of.
Tuesday.
Those Stanley Cups, they got a pretty good flow to them. They're great for all kinds of beverages and liquid container needs. You can get your coffee going. You can get your hot chocolate, your tea. You can do the cold stuff in there as well. Get a smoothie going. Get a milkshake in there. Tons of different options. Not really the receptacle one thinks of first when needing to contain breast milk. Why is that even a connection, you may be asking yourself? Well, I'm here to tell you. The Smoking Gun, who deal with police reports, and take this all with a grain of salt. It could just be made-up internet stuff. But they've got a police report that dictates a maybe motivation, not quite clear actually, but a stolen Stanley Cup at work nonetheless. Somebody reported in Florida, because that's where this stuff is very much public knowledge, that a 40-ounce light blue Stanley Cup, $60 at retail when first purchased, went missing. Somebody arrested on a misdemeanor charge. But the thing is, according to the investigation, before the theft, that same person who stole the Stanley Cup was heard remarking about it. Wow, that's a nice cup. That would be great to hold my breast milk. Again, unclear if that's the motivation. If it is, in fact, in any case, rethink your life. We're talking about this term Choppelganger, Gen Z coming up with all kinds of terms. If you hear it used about yourself, assume malicious intent. So you got to know some other terms, and doppelganger being one of them, probably pretty easy. Body double, like you just look exactly like somebody. Yeah, the antiquity means like it's an evil version or whatever, but just casually, it means you're the spitting image of somebody. But chopped means you don't look so good. Why are you looking chopped today? Got to do a little something, zhuzh it up so you don't look so chopped. Well, Choppelganger putting that together, my brain can do the logic. It means you look like somebody else, only uglier. Ouch! Devastating! I mean, although that is a game that I used to play with siblings and then with friends as I grew up a little bit more. You know who you look like, only uglier. So not that new of an idea, not that new of a concept, but still, it might be a little bit of a dig where you're like, no, I thought I looked like Ryan Gosling. They're like, no, you look like Ryan Grossling.
Hey, Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
Well, after collaborating big time with a whole EP with Aerosmith, and then a recent release of a single with the people from Smashing Pumpkins, Youngblood is moving on to Eddie Vedder. A collaboration could have the Pearl Jam singer working with Youngblood, who calls Eddie such an inspiration to me, especially vocally. Some other people in the music industry have been somewhat critical of Youngblood, but he's been tied into so many big acts now, he certainly is making some success for himself. Tom Morello calling out the United States administration for allegedly using the same slogan as the Nazi Party ahead of mass murders historically. He says the Department of Homeland Security responded, saying calling everything you dislike Nazi propaganda is tiresome. Well, it's only really, when the shoe fits, that it fits. My Chemical Romance, unfortunately, having to delay their first show of the big 2026 World Tour. It's in celebration of 20 years of the Black Parade, which came out in 2006. Now, they are doing an extensive tour that is going to have stops in almost every continent, with the UK, Europe, North America, South America, and Southeast Asia in particular represented. They're supposed to be in Bogota, Colombia on the 22nd, but they just had to confirm that they are not going to be doing that show, but it will be on February 10th. So, at least people don't have to have a question mark above their heads. That's it for your music news this morning. I'm Steve Reeve. They've been rolling out these teasers, these just shorts, glimpses of updates of what's going on to stoke the fires of the fandom ahead of Avatar, Fire and Ash on the big screen, and then about a week later they've been revealing them on social media. The latest one, and apparently the last one, for now, that we were going to get has arrived online. We're going to post that up on the blog at the website, cruiseradio.com, but of course it's all over the place. The Wakandans meet a member of the Fantastic Four. Some people going, that's a weird connection. Not that weird, actually. Black Panther originally appeared in a Fantastic Four comic. They're keeping it true, in some cases, to that original source material. But really, that's not the weirdest thing of this morning. They actually also started a live video that people can tune into, jump onto the chat section. But it's a doomsday clock that is leading up until the release of the film, which, reminder, is in December. Which, unless the movie is delayed, will take 11 months, 4 days, and change to arrive. I guess if people sat for a 6-hour video of set chairs and names, Marvel figures fans will stay sat for a whole damn year. I think our attention spans are a little smaller than that.
I have been falling for 30 minutes!
Wednesday.
Would you rocket to the moon if you had the chance? Obviously, tall order. We're really thinking hypothetical here. Takes a lot of training and everything, too. You'd be working out a lot. With all of that as it's taken care of. Does the idea excite you or terrify you? It's inspired by the fact that NASA has finally set the date. We've known that they were going to be going back to the moon, sending a crew of Americans, plus also a Canadian up to our big old satellite for the first time that humans have been up there in 53 years. 1972 is when the last mission up there happened. They've picked some dates. The ideal date is going to be February 6th for takeoff, though the window that they've got identified, January 31st to February 14th. Canadian making history for the Great White North at the same time. It just got me thinking, would you do it if you had the chance? Would you take those steps in the moon dust, leave a print behind, make a giant leap, that kind of thing? Honestly, I don't know. I would love to, but the idea does give me a little bit of that fear. They are looking at, if not February, about March or April for takeoff, hoping it works out. It does sound a little bit like a couple talking about planning their destination wedding, though, doesn't it? Well, February 6th is what we're looking for, but if not, if the weather isn't perfect, well, then we've got some ideas for a little bit later on in the year. Be a pretty specific meaning for the word honeymoon in that case as well. The website that's launched many a band career and has hosted millions of hopefuls, Bandcamp is now making the stance to ban all music made with artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI. They do say we reserve the right to remove any music on suspicion of being AI generated, and while that sounds like there won't be a due process or a fair trial, they do say they're going to be using several tools to identify whether things are AI generated or authentic, like music should be. Muse making a difficult decision. They're canceling some shows, though they're not really explaining why. They were going to be playing in several different countries, in India, South Africa, the United Arab Emirates, but they say due to unforeseen circumstances, they've made the decision to cancel those shows. And no word on whether they're going to be postponing and then giving the chance to use those tickets for a future date or not. It does seem like those shows are just wiped off of the schedule. The Fugees are reeling after the loss of one of their own. Collaborator with the band and producer of many, John Forte, found dead at the age of 50. Wyclef Jean was paying tribute. He says, "This one hurts, my brother." He was found dead at his home in Massachusetts on Monday, according to a police report. No signs of foul play or readily apparent cause of death. It's being investigated, so we don't have answers at this time. That's it for your music news this morning. Sometimes when actors are on the promotional circuits and doing the junkets to make people aware of the movies they've got in theaters, it gets a little awkward. And when you're Paul Rudd promoting a movie called Anaconda, which is a comedic, buddy sort of retelling of the story of the movie Anaconda from the 90s, only not and different. I digress. It's about a big snake, and Paul Rudd was asked about his, no better way to put it than Big Snake. On a podcast recently, they were asking about a stunt that went down on a podcast recording earlier in the year, 2025, in which Michael Cera pretended to be a show production assistant, a PA, spilling hot coffee on Paul. And I guess it was actually pretty hot. He ended up getting a little bit hurt from that, but nothing major, nothing lasted. And part of the gag was that he had coffee spilled on him, had to change his pants, and they blurred him out. So then he was asked, well, do you think people now are aware of the size of the anaconda in the scenario? To which Paul said, I have no idea. Why would people even be that aware of things? He said, I've never done a movie nude. I've never been naked in a movie. He's a fairly private person. He doesn't want to be wagging things all over the place. He says, I'm not Harvey Keitel in The Piano. I think that's good enough reason. I mean, he took it in stride. He's a very funny individual and able to, I'm sure, laugh off any scenario. But that is still ultimately a super awkward question to be asking anybody in any form of podcast, even if the movie that's being promoted is called Anaconda.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.